This is Zeeburg, and like most major cities, it isn't perfect. It's the result of centuries of history and plenty of urban planning decisions. Some good ones and some bad ones. Today we're expanding on the good stuff, such as this new harbor redevelopment, a great new tram extension, and this wonderful old park. But we're also expanding the city's urban expressway system with daily reminders of more car-centric times. If you enjoy my content, I hope you'll hit the like button and let's dive in. Okay, so if you're a fan of how this development is currently looking and how this tram is entering the side of the arena here as a terminal stop, I suggest you savor this moment, maybe even pause the video and have a cup of coffee. Because it's all about to change. Because quite a few of you suggested that I flip the stadium 180 degrees so that the fancy facade and this proud logo is actually facing the city and not the bay. Which I guess makes sense. I think I should do that. However, that is going to force us to rethink the elevated tram line completely, because this station setup is not going to work as soon as this plaza right here is situated on this far end. And that's not the final detail for this increased complexity, as there were also talks about having an additional tram stop here in Neuhafen. But to justify that, we need to increase the size of this area with more land reclamation. And here it is, the location of the new tram stop. Well, in 30 or 40 minutes time, at least. Yeah, let's just start by flipping the stadium around and opening Pandora's box. Oh yeah, so the lacking road connection and electricity here really isn't the main issue. We could easily solve that. I think the issue design-wise is that there's no feature on this side of the building that you easily connect this tram station to. We are a little fortunate though, because I have discovered this structure here kind of poking out. And maybe that's just the feature we need. If I grab the very same station and just try to align it to the right angle here, and we just bring it as close as we can. Yeah, it's really not perfect by any means, but I think this is the best current solution, and there aren't all that many standout features on this side of the building. And I guess as a positive, we get to keep the plaza in place. Maybe even with a bit of a view. I say maybe because we're gonna bring these elevated tram tracks through here, so yeah, probably not much of a view, honestly. Whoops, I did something else entirely. Yeah, sorry about that. Like, usually I would revert to an older save and rebuild this with you guys along the way. But it was a little finicky, especially since I had to lower it into the ground and then cover it up with some of these raised platforms here. So yeah, I think in the end I don't mind the plaza connection directly to the station, since this view would already be obscured by elevated tram tracks. But I think the more important reason for actually doing this is that since the station is just one straight piece without any curvature, it did look like a little odd having it connected here. It also allows us to kind of keep the elevated tram segments a little more snug to the actual arena structure. Might even do something fun with the pillars here to attach the two, but we'll see. For now, I think this is the right approach. With the station at this location though, it is becoming even more clear that we'll need to do some terraforming, some land reclamation to justify an additional final station out here. The first hurdle is going to be grabbing this entire new development and just kind of shifting that a little bit to the east, just to make this basin a little smaller, make the entire area a little more condensed. I don't want to block off too much of Old Town from the Bay Area here with this, with the new pier we'll be adding. Alright, so this is not necessarily the final shape of this thingy, and we might very well turn this into a breakwater to kind of match the design of this guy. But I think it's a good start. And speaking of starts, we're gonna get the tram network done as the first piece of infrastructure out here, and then just kind of squeeze in buildings around that. There's a specific station I'd love to use, the small tram plaza from the City Stations pack. This one actually comes with two different roof versions, so I might just place the both of them just to have a look. Ooh, these are both great looking stations, but I guess I prefer this roof structure. If anything, it's a little more unique. We don't see this shape all that often in game, so let's grab this one and get it snapped. Now on the surface, this might not be seen as the ideal location of a tram station. It would probably be more centered, but maybe I'm just having some clever foresight, imagining some ferry stops here. Maybe. Just maybe. Anyways, we've now got the tricky job of getting this connected to the elevated tram station. There might just be a way of doing this without disrupting everything we've built here, but it's gonna require me to just reorder a few things. I'd love to keep this underground parking facility, as well as this part of the apartment complex. So let's see if we could just kind of flip that, move that to face this road here. And then the underground parking, we might just have the tram go directly above it. Sort of directly. Actually, I'm not quite sure. Let's see if we can just squeeze that into the corner here. Just like this. Because I think we might need like a small road segment here as well. Or maybe it should just be the tram, because we've got a road connecting right here. And then we'll just need a small bridge crossing as well. I'm adding this quick lane just to ensure they've got a bit of parking, or they're gonna be whining real quick, and then we're gonna jump straight into mapping out the tram tracks. So we're gonna reduce the increment to the smallest possible one here. We're gonna make it an elevated segment, obviously. Gonna reduce a few snapping options, otherwise it's gonna be super annoying to work with. And then I'd like to bring it down to, I guess, 625 in height. So that's a 6% drop, which is pretty reasonable. The reason being is that I need to reach ground level over here pretty quickly, so I don't want too much elevation in place before we get there. Now, I'm gonna make a direct straight connection to this station here, so I'm just gonna sort of find the earliest possible stage where I can move into this island here, and we're just gonna drop it all the way down to 0. Then we'll change to ground mode, and we'll see if we can get this connection. It's almost perfect. We're just gonna move the key here real close to the tram tracks. Woohoo! Engineering has gone too far. Yeah, let's get this cleaned up just a little bit. So if I can just maybe remove 2 of these and just move the other ones out of the way, that would be real nice. Just trying to smooth this out a little more. The curvy bit ended up looking a little weird. That's more like it. We're gonna use a narrow suburban road with some actual sidewalks for once to make out the bridge or elevated segment. I expect people want to walk here, so that's the main reason. And then we'll just make the come on, make the best possible connection we can. Yeah, this is gonna need a little move with love, I guess, but it should work out. What's even going on? Please just act nice. Thank you. Alright, not the nicest view from your balcony, but maybe this is how you reach the affordable units quota or something. Actually, on the topic of affordability, I do imagine that as part of the master plan, a certain percentage of units out here would have to be affordable. Probably not a lot, but some. And I think I have just a custom asset for this purpose. We're gonna grab the Danube Marina Apartments, and I'm just gonna map out a quick block of these. or complex is probably the better word. We'll have 3 of different heights. And I do think these buildings pull off the affordable look a little better than some of the other developments out here. They have much smaller balconies, smaller windows, and an even simpler design than these boxes. I'm still gonna customize them a little bit though, because unfortunately I can't recolor them to any significant degree. Nothing really happens as I move through all of these sliders. But there's a solution for this, because we're gonna utilize some wall decor decals instead. So we're gonna get a somewhat dark texture on the roof here. Oh man, there's actually a pool. I mean, it's a shared space. Still affordable, I'm sure. Still affordable. And then I'm gonna use a slightly brighter texture for the sides here. Yeah, I think this might actually just be perfect. I'm not gonna do the wide bit of the facade though. I do like this two-tone look. It makes them look pretty unique, but they don't stand out too much now that they've gotten some wall decor decals simulating a bit of brickwork, just like these assets. So with this addition, actually adding 120 new apartments to this place, I think it's due time we get the tram connection set up. Currently, it's kind of broken. It kind of just ends at this station, and then this node is just lost, or waypoint rather. Let's just grab this, and we'll get that added right here. The trams can reverse here in Zeeburg, which is very, very convenient indeed, so we don't need to loop anything. So now it's all set up, and it's gonna be interesting to see what the actual usage of this stuff is, since, I mean, there isn't much here just yet. Here it comes, the first tram making its very first stop here. Is anyone waiting? No. Is anyone actually getting off though? Also a resounding no. Oh well, I guess we need more people. Alright, so it's definitely a bit of a cloudy day here in Zeeburg, but let's just grab a quick tour of the new additions. We've got 2 medium density developments, mixed use, so plenty of street level activity. We've got some cafes, coffee shops, grocery stores moving in. We've got people walking. It's all turning into quite a nice part of town. And importantly, we actually have a few people now waiting for the tram. 10, no less. That's pretty significant. 12 even. Oh my goodness. Rush hour. And the tram is coming into station to pick these people up. Oh, this is so cool. And quite a few people got off as well. And into the city it goes. How nice is that? Anyways, I want to continue keeping a few empty lots out here. It is a redevelopment still in progress, and I want to include your input and feedback, make some cool votes on the channel. Make sure to enable notifications if you don't want to miss out. Although I will say upfront that the few suggestions we've already had calling for a convention center, I just don't see how we're gonna squeeze that into Neuhafen. But then Neuhafen isn't going to be the only former industrial area to receive a major overhaul, so maybe sometime in the future. And speaking of Neuhafen, we have to expand the actual district limits to include this new area. It currently contains about 1,000 apartments, 2,200 people and 920 workers. So let's just get that expanded. So about a 50% increase in the amount of units and population, but only an increase of about 200 jobs. And I think we need to change that. I mean, we need We need a big structure here offering lots of jobs as well, so it's not all just residential with a few small commercial stores mixed in. And I think we can even achieve two things on this lot here. So the one will be providing several hundred new jobs to this area, which is also going to prompt people to utilize the tram route. But I also want something that is an architectural focal point. Currently, much of Neuhafen is pretty bland. At least it's very boxy. The architecture isn't super adventurous, although I will say the concert hall is beautiful. And the same is the case with the stadium and to some degree the mall. But the rest is, yeah, it's pretty square looking. And it's not to say that isn't realistic, quite the opposite in fact. We're looking at a few examples of redeveloped former port areas here in Copenhagen. And it's all very, very boxy, but there usually are just a few architectural focal points. This building here is obviously a little more adventurous and it really draws quite a bit of attention. And if we move to the North Harbor redevelopment, which has a lot in common with Neuhafen, we kind of see the same thing. Most developments are pretty boxy. This helps keep the cost down and it's very practical. But then there will be some developments that just kind of break with this and turn into architectural focal points. The specific building I'd like to use here is the vanilla commercial signature building, the Activity Plaza. So we're just gonna grab that and get it placed out here. Although it would be a little easy to just have it as like a vanilla placement. So I think I'm gonna make something fun of it. We're just gonna get the initial placement to kind of just sit here, I guess, and then we're gonna grab a prop version of it so that we can make something a little more interesting. Squeezing the prop version into the actual functional asset. With this connection, then it sits quite a bit lower, which I think is just fine. Now I need to adjust the actual piers here so that they conform to the building and not the other way around, because that's really gonna help with this custom look here. So we'll need to get rid of at least a couple of segments, these two, well, this segment at the very least, and then I'll do a bit of terraforming so that I can work with some actual land here, because the interaction with the water physics is gonna get all jumpy if I do anything crazy. I'm gonna use this type of key with this concrete pattern instead of these more industrial looking keys, because I imagine these keys were maybe rebuilt to accommodate this building when they were added, so they just look a little more modern. The first extension is fairly easy. We'll just reach the edge of the building here. But then it's all gonna be a custom thing of just trying to like get everything aligned to the exact shape of the building. We'll be turning this into a combined office commercial space and add about 315 jobs, which should be a little more fitting for a building of this size compared to the vanilla 17 or 20 odd jobs. Really not looking to do much additional detailing down here because we've got bigger fish to fry, but I am going to anchor this development with an anchor prop. Yeah. You know what? This sounded a lot more fun when whatever. It looks nice. Bit of an unfinished vibe down here, which is perfect. That's exactly what we're trying to achieve. For good measure, we can't have two activity plazas throughout the city. It's gonna ruin my immersion. So we're gonna get rid of the one sitting on this corner lot and replace it with public housing. A couple of prop-up beauties from the UK region pack. I don't think I'm ever gonna get tired of watching all this public transit in motion, especially this part of the ZTN4 line. Completely separated from any other form of traffic, it just feels super efficient. And I'm pretty excited to announce that we're going to expand the ZTN4 line. As I hinted in the previous episode, we're going to bring it through one of the major job centers of the city and beyond. So let's use the incredible Better Transit View mod to highlight this route and how we'll be expanding it. So currently it stretches from Neuhafen to Wilhelmspark, and it shares quite a few stops through the older parts of the city with the ZTN1 line. It also shares a single stop with the ZTN3 and the ZTN2 line, as they both move cross town. Now, the reason the ZTN4 line terminates here in Wilhelmspark instead of moving all the way out to Ferdinand like the ZTN1 line is basically just a demand question. So instead of terminating at Wilhelmspark, the ZTN4 line is instead going to move straight up this arterial. It's going to serve the busy industrial district of Livonia with at least one stop. Then it's going to cross the Zeeburg rail yard, which is going to enable it to serve this future expansion. This project is also going to contain quite a few tweaks to some of the existing tram infrastructure, because currently most of the trams throughout Zeeburg run in the very center of the main avenues. Now, they are fully dedicated tracks, they don't share it with traffic, very important. But I think we can mix it up and make it a little more interesting and, more importantly, a little more user-friendly, because this setup obviously forces pedestrians to always cross through some pretty high-speed traffic to reach their stops. And we can avoid this by completely splitting vehicle and tram traffic to either side of the road by utilizing some of my fancy road builder mods like this one. Now, this is a version that has a 2-meter wide median in the center, so it's not going to work out because we can't have a stop on either side. But I also have a 5-meter wide median version, and if I just drag this out like this, we should be able to redo both stops. Clicking this guy, let's get that over here. And clicking the other guy, we'll just make sure that is directly opposite. Obviously, this kind of puts pedestrians at odds with cyclists, because you've got an actual bike lane in between where you need to get on and off the tram, but we're just gonna count on the good cyclists of Zeeburg to be aware of this. I mean, if there's a tram stop here and a tram parked, just cycle, responsibly. Another obvious thing is that this isn't going to work for just one segment of one major avenue. We'll have to do the full conversion for this to really be effective. So I'm just going to pause once again, and then we're just going to drag out a few additional segments. Going to use the narrow median version whenever we don't need a stop, and switch it to the wide median version when we do need a stop, like right here. As we'll be spending millions to add this tram infrastructure to these new roads in Livonia, we're gonna try to keep things somewhat realistic by somewhat adhering to the current widths of the road, which means that for this major avenue, we can just continue with this configuration. 6 lanes of traffic in total, 4 for vehicles, 2 for trams. But as soon as we reach this end of Livonia, we just don't have the space. So instead, we'll be opting for this 2-lane, 2-way express roads with dedicated tram tracks, because it is pretty much the perfect width, it seems. Let's get that added in. There is one caveat to this road, which you might be able to tell. You can't add stops on either side because the median is too narrow, but there's a way around this, I think. For now, we're just gonna make sure the overpass is all set up, bringing this all the way out here. We're just gonna use the thick boy with the 5-meter median, because there is actually plenty of space here, at least if we're okay with getting rid of the roundabout and just kind of redrawing this bike lane. But that seems like a pretty cheap operation for a city. While that did seem to do the trick, we might as well just use Road Builder to also get a 2+1 configuration. I'm sure that's gonna be useful at some point in the future, so let's get rid of one of these car lanes here. So this is the 5-meter median tram 30. Oh yikes, this is getting weird. So it's a 29, and it's not a 4-laner anymore, it is a 2+1. Oh, the naming schemes. I think we'll be using this new guy on this side as well, just to enable a tram stop, and then we're probably gonna branch it into something a little more interesting. We'll get the beautiful architectural tram stop shelters added. And that's it, just 2 stops for now, but lots of potential here when the city starts growing in this northbound direction. I'm just gonna quickly get the current terminal stop here at Wilhelmspark reassigned to these 2 new stops. While I might be keeping this roundabout in place north of the rail yard, I think this major one here has to go. It is starting to look just a little funky with some of the curvature here, so yoink. We'll just get rid of that, and then we're going to use manipulation mode to just kind of realign some of these subnodes here, make it look all nice. As I'm looking at this overview of the now expanded ZTN4 and the current ZTN1, I'm starting to wonder whether we need a stop right here as well. Because if you're looking to transfer to the ZTN1 to reach Ferdinand, and you come from the northbound direction, you have quite a walk because you'll be stopping in Livonia. If you're coming from the southbound, you are probably gonna stop here in Carlsbridge, which is also a bit of a walk. So yeah, I think we can justify 1 additional stop right here. A quick full overview of the current network before I hit play and do just a tiny bit of detailing of some of the tram tracks and stops. This should allow you guys to make suggestions as well if you're into public transit planning. Alright, so I wanted to keep the detailing of these stops fairly light. We're utilizing the Holy Trinity, I guess, which is a prop, a tree, and a surface area. And I do imagine this very distinctive yellow tile type to be, you know, kind of tactile and help like blind or people who have like impaired vision actually navigate to the stop. Ideally, at least. And the reason I want to keep detailing light is because I'm starting to get a bit more into public transit, which might sound odd after, I don't know, 10-15,000 hours of city building games, and I guess a decently sized city building YouTube channel as well. But public transit was never the most fascinating aspect of city building or cities in general to me, so as I'm getting just a little more into it, I'm also realizing that it can be fairly disruptive, especially all the reworks and changes you have to make at times. So I don't want to get too attached to any of this, because we might just need to change it. In fact, it's pretty obvious that this junction is fairly chaotic. What this massive intersection really needs is some custom light phases, and I do have the traffic lights enhancement mod. But I'm a little scared of jumping into it because I haven't used it before and I am obviously no traffic engineer. So before I dive into that, I'm gonna try a few more simple traffic tweaks because I'm definitely seeing some other issues here. I'm gonna get rid of this connection because it is just causing a mess here. So currently it looks alright, but it gets pretty messy and there's no reason for Bellflower Street to have like a full connection to this avenue. And this intersection here before moving into the heart of Old Town is also just constant trouble. So I think we're gonna sewer this connection. Once again, adding a little stop node, just getting rid of that. And then in this case, we are going to disallow... Oh, you can't actually make a left turn here, so that's perfect. This should be much more freely flowing now. I think we're gonna keep this in place, but we are going to disallow a left turn right here and here as well. So this should cause greater flow. Gonna get rid of the traffic lights as well, and one set of pedestrian crossings, which should hopefully all kind of just summarize to better traffic flow. So it does seem like these two small changes have alleviated traffic just a little bit. But the next change is going to be a lot more controversial because it will attempt to alleviate the massive queue we're seeing on this expressway. There's a common theme here. People are trying to move from Concordia, Louisen-Canal and Neuville all the way over to Ferdinand and Livonia to work. And so currently quite a few of them feel inclined to make a left turn right here at this super busy intersection. So how would they fix this? Not now, but in 1970. Well, they might just start by grabbing the traffic mod and disallow this left turn that is causing so many issues. Yoink. And then they might just choose to continue this expressway so that it cuts straight through this junction, moves alongside this shoreline, and adds a direct connection to this main arterial, this ring road, which also provides a direct connection to the elevated expressway. You probably wouldn't do something like that today. I mean, people actually live here. This is a decent recreational space. But during the 1970s, oh, they do a lot of car-centric stuff. So we're not drawing any specific real-life inspiration for this expressway, but we might just want to take a look at Liège in Belgium, where much of the shoreline for this river is just covered with road infrastructure. And it's pretty interesting how many tunnels they've actually made here. That's definitely been a bit of a theme. And while it does help traffic flow, it also means that much of the shoreline here is just concrete upon concrete. A bit of a fun example here from Paris, with 10 to 12 lanes of asphalt separating you from the otherwise enjoyable riverfront. And it just goes on and on. I guess this is technically 8 lanes plus 4 lanes. Oh, there's one out here as well. Or is this... oh, this is just a recreational space. Well, sort of, I guess. But you've got 12 lanes of traffic to cross before you can reach it. And a quick shout out to this 8-lane highway cutting directly through dense residential areas. Once again in Paris, some segments are sunken and some are elevated. And my point isn't that Paris is located in Texas. I think my point is that we Europeans can embrace good old asphalt if we feel we need to, and we really felt we needed to during the 70s. Okay, I mean, I guess this is a start, and traffic has actually cleaned up a little bit, not least because they could utilize this bypass. The property prices in this area have drastically been reduced, but maybe this is how you solve an unaffordable city core. I don't know. I am kinda tempted though to replicate some of the tunnels we saw in Liège in Belgium. But I'm a little scared of diving into this. The game might crash if you push it a little too far, and I wouldn't want that, but I think I'm gonna give it a go either way. So yeah, in the height of realism, I'm just gonna casually move this massive apartment complex a little bit. And then maybe, just maybe, we'll have the space right here for an additional ramp that will then go underneath this junction and pop up somewhere over here. Okay, this is gonna be tricky. I can't believe this worked, but here we are, and it's seeing plenty of use as well. I could use a tiny bit of additional detailing and tweaking, but I just needed to get the concept in place. It's got a few rough edges. I think this off-ramp being the worst offender. So yeah, I think I need this to be like a custom segment, probably without the shoulder, so just very narrow shoulders to match the other types of expressways I've used in this area. It's definitely a slightly better look, and then maybe 2 quick keys here without any issues, and a few bushes just to kind of cover up the imperfections in here. It's absolutely beautiful, and it seems like we've just really been able to reduce the amount of right turns here in general. Lots of people are taking the underpass as well. It's a resounding success. A nice win for the car lobby of the 70s. Now obviously there's quite a bit of return traffic as well. These people need to make it home again, I guess, and since this is one way, they obviously can't take the same route home. This is putting a lot of strain on this intersection. They're making a right turn here, and then they either go straight to Neuville or they make a left. Seems like most people make a left so that you can get to Concordia or the western portion of Neuville. So maybe we need an additional expressway, or at least an extension of the new one. I mean, if you're able to turn left here and follow the elevated segment to about this point and then grab an off-ramp connecting you to this street, you'd pretty much be able to utilize the same route home as you... Or maybe there is a different solution, something that's a little more elegant, a little less intrusive than having both shorelines of this inlet covered in elevated highways. I mean, this is intrusive enough as is. Yeah, I think we need to get into some road builder stuff. But before we do that, we're gonna turn this into a bi-directional overpass. So I should have most of the roads I need. I have a 4-lane asymmetric highway, and I think this one is a vanilla one even, which I can use right here. Yank. Then I'm gonna upgrade this to a 2-lane, 2-way highway. Then right here, we're going to upgrade it to a 3-lane, 2-way highway. Or if we need 2 lanes in this direction, which we might, it seems like that's where the demand currently is, we could utilize the 2+1 for the majority of this segment actually. All the way up here. Yes. And then use the 4+1 here as well. Right here, right here, right here, and then a regular 2-laner. And it does look like the amount of lanes in each direction corresponds pretty well to the overall traffic demand. This 2-lane segment is definitely a lot more busy. But let's get into some road builder fun. So we'll grab the mod and let's start with this segment as it makes up the bulk of it. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're just gonna make this whole configuration more narrow and a little slimmer. So let's just get rid of this shoulder in its entirety. And then I'm gonna reduce this shoulder to just 1 meter in width. I'm not gonna reduce it fully, or sorry, remove it fully, because that can cause graphic glitches at the nodes. But I might, let's see, we're gonna add a 2-meter median to separate the 2 flows of traffic. Then we're gonna drop the speed limit to 60. And then I think we might even reduce this to 3 meters because it's going to change the actual lane markings here and just make it look like really, really custom. I think this is pretty good. So let's just call this a narrow 2+1. 2+1 expressway. We'll get a few more of these segments placed, and it is reducing the overall bulkiness quite a bit. And seeing as we're using the 3+1 vanilla version quite a bit, we might as well give that a narrow road builder overhaul as well. There's gonna be just a bit of glitching right here where the regular vanilla sidewalk meets this lane that has no shoulder, but I think that's passable. It's a very small thing. It's gonna be interesting to see how it looks on this end of it though, because we'll be doing quite a few upgrades. So let's see, we're gonna start here, I guess, and bring these two segments in as well. Oh, it's looking mighty wonky. Okay, so I think at the very least I need a 1 meter wide shoulder on either side for this connection to not glitch out. But I think that's passable because while it does create like a bit of a weird gap right here, it does actually fix the integration with the vanilla sidewalks, which is pretty nice. Let's make sure the lane connection is looking all right. We definitely need to get rid of U-turns and unsafe and bring this one in here, creating the correct marking. Very nice. No U-turns, thank you very much. And no U-turns or any weird stuff. Then we'll drag out this node a bit with the manipulation mode just to get a more seamless transition. I feel like this would feature a bit of low-rent, affordable housing, like a few low-rent towers or something right next to it. Would look pretty urban, modern redevelopment, or rather urban renewal programs of the 70s, which, yeah, don't feel modern at all today. I'm just gonna get 2 towers here. Oh yeah, 2 of these beauties from the UK pack. Oh, I can even fit in a 3rd one. I've just made them a little darker with recolor and then added a ton of trees, which is something that urban renewal programs of the 70s actually did seem to get right. So in terms of the actual efficiency of this new bypass, it's hard to say. I mean, it's seeing quite a bit of use, so some cars are opting to choose this route. But we don't specifically know where they would have otherwise driven before. I can say that the queues here seems a little more manageable, but it might be a different time of day, so I mean, it's hard to really tell if it was more successful. But it's a pretty invasive, ugly addition, so I'm happy. Okay, I think we need to wrap up with something a little nice, some actual recreational space. Not just for highway enthusiasts. So let's get a bunch of Dauphine completed. And obviously we've got some considerations to take into play, because we've got air pollution, at least on these 3 lots here, which is making me think that this should be parkland, so that you can walk around in the air pollution and look at the trees and stuff. As for the development of these 3 blocks, which are clear of air pollution, I want something that's a little more modern than this turn of the century stuff. I'm thinking 1930s to 40s, which should match the medium density residential theme from the Netherlands pack quite well. And it's gonna be the first time we seriously get to use this here in Zeeburg. But to achieve that transition, as well as a proper park, I definitely need to redo the road layout. The only thing that's really gonna stay in place is this main avenue with the tram tracks. Alright, so there's definitely a bit of experimentation going on here. More specifically, I'm experimenting with some transitions to less old apartment complexes, because it's pretty easy to just get into the routine of copy-pasting these German-themed buildings throughout much of the inner city areas. But realistically, I need to be able to transition to something that's not quite as old, but isn't modern either. And I think this Dutch-themed medium density stuff really plays nicely into that transition. Tried colorizing this quite differently to make it a single complex, and I'm even squeezing in a few good old vanilla European themed assets. I'm less sure about this low rent stuff from the French themed pack. The asset is absolutely wonderful, but I wish I could recolor it. Unfortunately, I can't, so it just kind of sticks out a little in terms of the color scheme. But otherwise, I mean, it's an act of being as creative with the tools we have available as possible, and I think it's turning out all right. As you can probably tell, the park is going to have a bit of an odd shape, but I'm hopeful that in this transition from older stuff to slightly less old stuff, the addition of like a bit of not dead space, but park space, some pathways and trees and whatnot is going to kind of help just maybe smoothen it out a little bit, because if these buildings are right next to each other, it's a bit of a sharp transition. And I guess as much as a note to myself than anything else, I need to remind myself that real life is just random. Sometimes you'll just have a weird mixture of buildings from different ages and different architectural types. And you might not know the exact explanation. It's not necessarily war or conflicts or anything like that. Real life can just be very weird. I mean, just look at this corner. Why didn't this guy slap a corner building at this lot? Come on, that's a rookie mistake. Now, interestingly, I did all this clever thinking to avoid air pollution, and I'm hit with noise pollution. But I don't think that's my fault. I think these office buildings I'm using might be slightly bugged unless having high noise pollution works as intended. Yeah, I mean, it's a little excessive, so I'm gonna have to get rid of these, and we're gonna have to find a compensation because there were quite a few jobs here. How's this girl for a compensation? Plop. It even comes with an awesome underground parking garage. I mean, if you can access it at least, which you can now. A really striking design from a real-life building in Argentina, but 176 workplaces. We're gonna change that to, let's see, 765. Seems more fitting. Once again, I'm using the wonderful Change Company mod, which also allows me to override the amount of workplaces on any asset that provides them. So the noise pollution notifications are slowly disappearing, meaning we're good to go for the park. And I'll be honest, I'm gonna keep it super simple, and we're just gonna add a ton of wildflowers, some beautiful trees, and lots of swoopy pathways. It's gonna look really great despite being super simple. There's gonna be a few standout features though. So for one, I want a pedestrian path to move underneath the boulevard here so that there's like one continuous access to all aspects of the park. Even though walking under a major road isn't the nicest experience, it's better than having to cross it. And then I want to create a small lake, or pond is probably the better term. And instead of trying to fiddle with the crazy water physics of the game, I'm going to try to use a water surface to achieve this, which I use way too seldomly, despite it being much easier than, the water physics. So I think I'll start with the pond because it's probably gonna be the most standout feature, and seeing as I'm gonna utilize a surface for this, I can be a little more relaxed with my terraforming. So I'm just going to drop the level down a little bit. I'll grab this level here, and I'm just gonna flatten the area which I'm gonna have this pond placed in. And it would be very, very cool for the pond to actually go maybe underneath the road as well. Yeah, we're gonna see if we can make that work. I've got a bunch of really cool water surfaces, but it doesn't matter which one we use initially because we can use the area bucket tool to just swap it out with whatever we want. So I'm just gonna pick a random blue one, and I'm gonna try to follow the lower contour line here, because I mean that should ensure that it looks as plain as possible. I know the ending parts here look a little abrupt, but that's because I need to test out how to actually move it underneath the road here. Oh, I can't. Oh, it doesn't actually. Oh, that's nice. It doesn't go above road surfaces. I feared that for just a second, but it doesn't seem to be the case. There we go. So for good measure, we're gonna move the 2 tram stops just one quick block over right here, because it's not gonna work all that well with this segment being elevated, especially because I'm gonna add in a few additional nodes just like this, so that I have better control over the segment I want to elevate. Because remember, I also need to make room for the pavement path to run underneath here. I really hope we've got enough clearance under this overpass. I'm not gonna change it if we don't. Come on. Yeah, I mean that should work, unless you're like super tall. Okay, I'm just gonna make a bit more clearance, but we're not gonna stress about it. I guess if you wanna take a little swim, you might want like a wooden leisure pier, which you can just kinda jump from. I don't know how the transition from the wooden part to the pedestrian stuff is gonna look like, but I'm gonna give it a go. It's not too bad. I think that kind of works. Lots of vanilla flowers and bushes at play here, and it looks pretty good to me, but for the actual lakefront I'm gonna use some grass assets from Pidelmo. I'll experiment a little bit by trying to just lowering them a little and just bringing them a bit further out at this part of the lake, so it's almost like swampy or marshy at this end. And how cool is that? We can see the actual cloud reflections here in the surface, so it has like, it's actually mirrored off the skybox, it seems. That is so cool. Anyways, last but certainly not least, trees. Let's test out a few of these other water textures. Oh, that's nice. It's got a bit of a ripple effect as well, so it doesn't look completely still. I really like this one. It's a little more striking, this bright, slightly greenish color. Yeah, I mean, I think that's it. I think that's the park. So, I mean, it's a really simple design, but I think it looks really nice. And people do use it. It doesn't have park modifiers, you know, it's not functional like that, but people actually use these pathways. And I'd like to think it's for recreational purposes, but it's probably just to get somewhere. Anyway, that is going to conclude this episode, which has been a fun one. We've been kind of working all over, I feel. We've added something modern, we've added some really nice public transit, we've added, I guess, the exact opposite of nice public transit. And then we've finally continued progress on Dauphine, and this whole tie-in before we transfer to the eastern suburbs is starting to look better and better. As always, I want to thank you guys so much for all the wonderful feedback, suggestions, and for watching. I hope to see you all in the next one. Goodbye.